A week from today, Utah football finally returns, and we got to talk about one of the special players that's going to make this a season to remember for Utah, Lander Barton, as well as Karene Reid, the elite linebacker duo, as well as the linebacker room. And Utah has a few elite players, according to the Reese Senior Bowl, because Utah got some recognition, more recognition as a Reese Senior Bowl individual invites go than any other Big 12 squad. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. We are available on all platforms, including YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. If this is your first time listening to our show, thank you. Like and subscribe. Love to interact with everyone on the YouTube comments. We appreciate all of you who do listen to the show every single day. If you're in the market for a second listen, Locked On College Football is there for you, as well as Locked On Big 12, breaking down Utah's new conference. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by Ultimate GM. Ultimate College Football Head Coach is a brand new mobile game that is completely free and has no ads and 100% playable offline. You can use the promo code Locked On CFB, all caps, no spaces, Locked On CFB, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Begin your coaching legacy today. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be joined on today's show by Elijah Grayson Murray of All Utes. And Elijah, we are got a week to go till Utah football. We'll talk about the linebackers. We got to talk about the depth of the room, the Senior Bowl invites, all that stuff. I got a bold prediction from you at the end of the show, but I mean, come on, man. We're a week away from Utah football. Like, I'm fired up, and I know you go to the U as well. It's going to be your senior season, so you're fired up for what could be one last ride, not just for you during your time at the U, but also just Cam Rising and co. I can't wait to get it on.
Yeah, I'm so stoked. I'm so ready. I actually saw a post on Instagram today saying this is the last weekend without college football for the rest of the year. So that is just I love it so much, and I'm so ready to be back in Rice-Eccles Stadium, and there's going to be so many cool memories this year. I can't wait.
It's going to be special, and it's even the last weekend just without football in general until February. So that's something that we're all fired up about. And it means just the arrival of college sports season in general, which we all love. But it does start with football, and Utah is going to have a chance to have a really amazing season. And I think one of the reasons for that is because they have a guy like Lander Barton, and I'll say too, Karene Reid, the duo of them as linebackers. I think it's right up there for best in the Big 12. Oklahoma State has a couple of dudes as well, but I think Lander Barton has a really good shot this year to break out and be the best linebacker in the Big 12. Yes, there are other guys with resumes that you would go, okay, they should be higher than him right now, just like for reasons like, hey, this Utah team is ranked higher than a lot of these Big 12 teams because overall the experience they return is more than those teams. So that's why I could give some of those other guys the nod. But Lander, just the tools and the abilities that he's flashed in his first 2 years have been incredible. We're talking about a guy with 34 tackles last year, 2 interceptions, and 2 pass breakups before the injury. And that injury came against USC, where he had a career high 9 tackles. So it felt like that second half of the season for him was really going to be spectacular. Also, if you look back at what he did in 22, this is what I love, the versatility, right? Last year, made more plays in coverage than behind the line of scrimmage, but the year before that in 22, played in every game, 46 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks. Lander Barton is a game wrecker. He just looks like a man amongst boys out there, even though he's banging against offensive linemen. So I think Barton's in for a monster season, and I do think he's got a chance to be the best linebacker in the country, and I do expect this to be his final year at Utah because I think he's going to be that spectacular.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and especially you mentioned his ability to go work in pass coverage just as well as behind the line of scrimmage, and I think that's where he's going to thrive even more this year with Morgan Scalley, having having an increased focus on defensive takeaways this year, and him and Karene Reid both are very multifaceted linebackers. They're both great in coverage, both great at stopping the run and getting past the offensive line. And Barton, he has all the tools to be the best linebacker in the Big 12 and maybe even one of the best in the nation. And like you said, if he has the season that we are expecting him to have, there's no, I mean, it's going to be sad to let him go, but you can't keep someone like that for too long.
You can't. I mean, just all the special skill traits that he has. When you look at that physicality that allows him to blow up offensive linemen to then make the tackle, he is a surefire tackler too, right? He's grown so much with his experience, his instinct, his feels. We talked about the coverage ability. We know he can be an effective blitzer too. So this is a guy who really does it all well, and I think is going to have a unreal season inside Rice Eccles Stadium that I can't wait to see play out. But I also think Karene Reid is spectacular, and I think so often Barton will be making the bigger, the highlight plays, the hit stick plays that will end up on SportsCenter. Karene Reid will be the guy who bats the key pass away or does the little thing that causes the play to get disrupted. We're talking about Karene Reid, a guy who's played in 35 games, started 31 of them, two-time All Pac-12 selection too, over 65 tackles in each of his last 2 seasons, has 11 and a half tackles for loss, 7 pass breakups, and 2 interceptions in that span. And I still remember his pick 6 against UCLA, like the very first play. I think it was the very first play.
It was the first play.
Yeah, that was just spectacular. And you look back in 22 as well, he had 5 sacks. So this is a guy who can also do everything for Utah. He's a captain for a reason. He's going to be one of the leaders on this defense. And Reid is such a key piece to this Utah defense because he knows everything. He's great in coverage. He also understands how to shoot those gaps and break through. His film study is phenomenal. This duo is spectacular.
Yeah, 100%. And like you said, they both can execute at multiple levels of the field. They can both get to the quarterback. They can both have be great in pass coverage. But they also have differences, which makes it so lethal. Like you said, Barton is the guy who will make the big plays and get on the highlight reel and everyone will be winning on over him. And then Reid is just going to be the guy who's making the little plays and keep, he's going to be the one who is going to keep the defense running. And as a captain this year, he is, his presence, even off the field and in the locker room is so important. And, and I know we're going to talk about this. I know that the linebacker room behind him isn't great, or we don't know. But these 2 guys are going to be special this year. And I think Morgan Scalley, with his new approach to the defense, they're gonna blossom.
I totally agree. I think they're going to have a monster year. I think they're going to be one of the best duos in the country. I just feel like there'll be very few times on the year where we're like, oh, Lander and Karene missed a tackle in this spot. And they were a huge part of the reason that this Utah defense held 5, or actually I think it was 7. Yeah, held 7 opponents last year under 14 points. They're a huge part of the reason this Utah defense finishes a top 5 run defense too. So these guys are elite players, and it will more than likely be both of their last years at Utah. So we're going to savor up every moment with them this fall. And they are great, like we said, but the depth behind them has serious questions based on how they've looked in the past. And of course, the injury to Liamani Damuni, he was a great third linebacker to have. He's not there anymore. So how does the state of the linebacker room look behind Lander Barton and Karene Reid? That's what we have to discuss in one moment. But first, we have to talk to you guys about one of the sponsors of today's episode of Locked On Utes. It's our friends at Ibata. Are you dreaming about that summer vacation, but just dreading the cost? With Ibata, you get cash back on all your purchases, so you can spend more time making the memories this summer and less time dreaming about them. Ibata is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. You can earn on hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies, even toys, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibata user earns $256 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, that flight you've been eyeing, or the fancy dinner you've absolutely been craving. Other apps, you get points that don't amount to much, but with Ibata, you earn cash back that you can withdraw to your bank account, PayPal, or gift card. Simply add offers in the app and upload your receipt, and voila, the money is yours. You can cover and save on over 2,000 brands and shop at over 1,000 retailers. So there are lots of places to get it on. with this great deal from Ibata, because right now that deal I'm about to mention, Ibata is offering listeners $5 just for trying Ibata by using the code LockedOnCollege when you register. You can just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibata app to start earning cash back and use the code LockedOnCollege, all caps, no spaces. That's IBOTCA in the Google Play or App Store, and use code LockedOnCollege, all caps, no spaces, to get in on this great offer from Ibata today. Also, want to remind you all that we have something pretty fun going on at the Locked On College Football Network, and that is Locked On College Football Podcast Kickoff, where we do have a live season preview that is up now. The Big 12 hosts put one together. Was not able to make it on that one, but it's a lot of fun hearing what all the different levels, right? You have the contenders, the next tier, and then kind of the other schools that are still trying to figure out their identity. It's a really fun show where you get all the angles of the Big 12. If you want to know the main storylines and everything going on with those teams, you can check out our Locked On College Football Big 12 season preview today. All right, Elijah, keeping it going here. Looking at the rest of the linebacker room, Karene, Reid, and Lander Barton have proven that they're an exceptional duo. They won the Pac-12 championship together in 2022. In 23, they were a great duo that held a lot of teams in check before Lander got hurt. But because they've been so good, we don't really know what's behind them. Mentioned Leavani Damuni. He got hurt in spring ball and is an injury that'll unfortunately keep him out for most, if not all of the year. The last time we were updated on that back in April. And so when you look at the rest of the depth in this group, there are a lot of question marks. I think the first guy that would come in if there is a need for a linebacker, and you do often play three linebackers, is Sione Fotu.
Yes.
In 11 games last year, he was returning from his mission, had 18 tackles, including 7 in the opener versus Florida. But there were several times on last season where it's like, okay, you could still see he was getting his legs back, getting the flow back of things. There was just a clear drop off in linebacker play from just watching those games to when you went from Lander Barton and Karene Reid to Sione Fotu. So that's where I have questions. I trust this staff. We've heard good things about him coming out of fall camp. So I think that we can see some good things from Fotu. He's going to be the first guy in, but if we're just going on how he played last year, that there are questions then how he's going to perform this fall.
Right. And I actually wrote an article about the linebacker room about a month or so ago. And it is pretty scary, especially if we get hit by, let's hope not, but if we get hit by the injury bug again, if one of those, if either Reid or Barton go down, you have Fotu, who is, could be a very solid guy for us. And I think he has improved a lot. But again, we don't have much to go off of that says that he could be like a solid option for us. And then behind him, really, there's a bunch of unknowns in terms of like how they would work with the team. And so it is worrisome. But I think Fotu, I do believe that he will be the guy that could step up and be, that kind of Damuni type player should Reid or Barton go down. Or even if they are healthy and we play a three linebacker set, I think he could learn a lot from Reid and Barton.
Yeah, he definitely can. It'll be an opportunity for him to grow this season, and he's going to have a great opportunity to be one of the starters come 2025. So excited to see what he can do. I think Colton Swan is a great coach, as we've kind of both just mentioned the trust we have there. So that's where I'm excited to see what it looks like. Outside of him, the other guys, Trey Reynolds is a guy that Steve Bartle of KSL Sports recently highlighted as someone who, since coming back from his mission, has made really good progress. But it is another example of a guy just, kind of getting back in football shape, all that. So we'll see how he contributes. Josh Calvert's been here for a while, but he's only seen limited action in games. So yeah, outside of Fotu, at least as the backup experience, not a lot of great candidates you feel strongly about. That's where Damuni was going to be that guy. And then Fotu being your fourth linebacker, you're like, my gosh, that's a heck of a room, basically. But that's not how it ended up shaking out for Utah. So going to be interested to see what this linebacker room looks like. But either way, we trust Colton Swan and the guys that he puts out there. And the top two we mentioned are in for big things coming up this fall. And speaking of in for big things, the Utah football team is expected, obviously, to do some great things this year. And when you're expected to do that, it's because of the elite players. The Reese Senior Bowl took notice, and they recently released their Senior Bowl watch list and included 13 Utah football players. Cam Rising, Mekhi Bernard, Micah Pittman, Dorian Singer, Brant Keithy, Jaron Kump, Junior Tafuna, Aliki Vaimahi, Connor O'Toole, Lander Barton, Karene Reid, Alakai Gilman, and Zamaya Vaughn. It's one of the things you love to see. And since Josh Furlong of KSL.com was kind enough to put this out, Utah has 13 players on the Senior Bowl watch list. And then next after that is you get Arizona with 11. So Utah is the most among Big 12 teams. NFL scouts are taking notice of this team's talent. And I don't think it's surprising that some of these guys are on here because the Senior Bowl is for older college football players. And that's one of the reasons that Utah is going to be awesome is because they have guys who were winning conference championships all the way back in 2021.
Yeah. And, the Senior Bowl is always really exciting to see, the Utah colors being represented. And last year, a few of our guys made a name for themselves and improved their draft stock pretty impressively as a result of their Senior Bowl performance. And so I'd expect, that now that we have a bigger pool of players attending the event this year, that's going to be a lot to watch out for. But I think it will lend well to Utah's draft prospects in 2025 because our players are developed so well, and sometimes they don't always get the recognition they deserve, and so the Senior Bowl kind of launches them to that next level.
It absolutely does. So love that all the guys are on here. A couple of guys too. I love that Aliki Vaimahi made it on here. That's a guy who is incredibly valuable to this Utah defense, but so often gets overlooked because when you notice someone, you notice Junior Tafuna. Even last year, Keanu Tanavasa broke on because of his pass rushing abilities too. But man, Vaimahi excels at clogging up the middle of the field, as well as he is a tenacious pass rusher too, who has a nasty bull rush. So love that he was on there. I'll be honest though, I do think this list easily could have been 15 because for all the guys who are on the watch list, there's some names that aren't on there. And we'll talk about maybe some of the underrated guys who should have a chance to maybe make the Senior Bowl. But to me, Van Fillinger is a guy who absolutely should have been on this list. When you look at what he's done over the last few seasons, talked about it on yesterday's show, all the contributions he's had as a pass rusher overall, or just earlier this week, we talked about he's a guy who has 13.5 sacks over the last 3 years too. So, and 5.5, if you go back to what he did back in 2022 as well, or 21 and 22. So really high on what Fillinger can do. And Damian Alford has all the skills and intangibles to really excel at not just Utah, but in the NFL too. So those two were the biggest omissions. Other guys I thought that could have been on this list, and I know there's only so many you're going to select anyways, but you look at Samote Peppa, Money Parks, Kenan Johnson, all solid guys that I think could have made it. Under the radar ones that have a shot: Cole Becker, Tavita Fotu, Johnny Maea, depending on if he starts, Jack Bowmeister, Caleb Lohner, and Miki Sukutraga. All guys that I don't expect to be in this game, but I think at the end of the year, if they have a great year, they will have a chance to get there as well. But out of all those guys I mentioned, who did you feel was kind of okay, I would have loved to see him on this list as well?
Money Parks. He's a very underrated wide receiver in our setup. His speed, obviously speed kills in the NFL nowadays. And so I would have loved to watch him, burn the Senior Bowl cornerbacks, and that'd be a lot of fun to watch, and I think that would translate. His skill set translates well to the pro game, so he was the name that I was kind of wow, especially since Pittman made the roster, and Parks didn't, but like you said, he could earn a spot as the season goes on. So hopefully we'll see him there.
Yep, he'll have a chance too as well. A lot of these guys, and it's going to be very highly unlikely that Utah has 13 guys get selected anyway. So it's always interesting to see how it goes. But it's a great honor for Utah that Jim Nagy and his staff, who do a great job at the Reese Senior Bowl, took notice and sent out this early season watch list. Excited to see how the year plays out for these guys. I'm also excited to hear how Elijah thinks the season's going to play out for Utah, because he's going to be dropping his bold prediction as we are just a week away from the season. Can't wait to hear that in one moment. But first, I have to talk to you about one of the sponsors of today's episode of Locked On Utes, our friends at Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Hey, Locked On Utes fans, I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do, Ultimate College Football Head Coach. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step inside the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of the Utah Utes? From recruiting players, hiring a coaching staff, to overseeing training camps and handling your school's scholarships, which we know what a whirlwind can be right now. You control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the pressure? And here's what I really love about this game. You are responsible for calling offensive plays during the game. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but will shape the future and legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football Head Coach is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go as you want and when you want to. And of course, we have a special offer here at Locked On Utes where you can use the promo code Locked On CFP, all caps, no spaces, Locked On CFP, to get use that inside the game and receive a free boost to your program. You can make sure to take advantage of this perk as it will get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfp.com, ultimate-cfp.com, or look it up on the App Store. Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Begin your coaching legacy today. All right, Elijah, bold take time all week on Locked On Utes. I've been having my guests close out the show with a bold prediction, and I am excited to hear yours.
All right, so I've been adoring Singer Homer this entire offseason. So my bold take is that he's going to win the Fred Blitnikoff Award this year. I think he will be the best wide receiver in college football. Cam Rising and him have such good chemistry. Literally from jump, they had great chemistry. I think he is right up there with Kincaid as the most talented target Rising has ever had. And I feel like everything is just going to click. Everything around it just seems to work, like to mesh. And so I think it's going to lead to a big season, and I have Singer taking home the Blitnikoff.
I like it. How many yards do you think he's going to have this year?
Man, let's go for 1,500. Let's get him there.
I love it. I love it. And I will say, for anyone who thinks like, oh, that's crazy, Dorian went over 1,000 yards already too, right? So if he's doing that, Utah's winning. This offense maximizes his skill set. And I know, Elijah, you had an opportunity to see their connection in the spring firsthand too, with the practices you were able to watch, as well as attending the spring games. So I think that he has a definite chance to be one of the best receivers in college football. I'm excited to see how it shakes out. And man, if he is up for the Blitnikoff, that means Utah was doing some special things this fall, which is something I can't wait to watch it play out. Elijah, thanks again for hopping on with me. If people want more of your work, where should they head over to?
You can follow my X account. It should be right below here, Elijah G. Murray. I repost all my articles there, and we write on Athlon Sports All Utes. So you can check out all of our articles on there. We keep up, with all the latest news and stuff surrounding Utah sports. And so, yeah, it's great to be on, and it's always nice to see you and to talk Utah football with you.
I appreciate you taking the time and coming well-researched, my friend. And like I said, enjoy that first game coming up next week. It's going to be a special year.
Yes, sir. Will do.
And if it's not a special year, well, then I'm going to be in a lot of trouble for some of the comments I've made on this show. So let's go, Utah. All righty, that's going to do it for today's episode. Got a fun Friday show tomorrow coming up. Moose Bingham will be joining me. There's only one position we haven't previewed yet. It's the offensive line. My biggest question about this team heading into the fall. So make sure you guys tune in tomorrow's show. It'll be a fun discussion with a former Utah player himself in Moose Bingham. All righty, that's going to do it for our episode. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Thanks again to Elijah for stopping by, and we'll see you on tomorrow's Locked On Utes.